Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Civic Action Podcast, the voice of the next generation. My name's Maurice and I'm the founder and executive director of Virtutem Populo. Virtutem Populo is a student-led 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting civic engagement and community involvement among youth in Miami-Dade County. We do this through programming, advocacy, and education. The Civic Action Podcast is one of the ways in which we carry out our mission. Today, we are here in the 305 Vox Populi studio thanks to the generosity of Miami Lakes Mayor Manny Sid. We have a very special guest today, and that's board member Luisa Santos, representing District 9 on the school board of Miami-Dade County. Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm so happy to be here. This is great.
Thank you. We're so excited to have you. And, one of the reasons I was most excited to bring you on was because I've noticed that, you particularly on the school board have made it, part of your mission and of getting students involved with your work. We know you have the Student Fellowship, which has dozens of students all across the county. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that and why is it important to you to make students, part of your decision making?
Yeah, so it's an honor to be here and very excited to be talking to one of our students. I think that you exemplify with your leadership as a student what every student is capable of, right? And it is our job as adults to empower and support and train the next generation because hopefully you all will be fantastic leaders. Some of you already today and many of you very soon leading our community. So why student? Why is that such a focus in my office? Well, not too long ago. I know some people will debate how long ago, but not too long ago, I was a student in our public schools and I was involved with student government. And I had plenty of ideas of things that would make my school, my community, my district better, and was able to find supportive adults who helped me with many of them. And yet there was more to do. And so I knew that, one, as a policymaker, it would make me stronger if I have the voices most affected by what I make decisions on at the table with me, giving me input consistently, systematically, in an ongoing basis. And I knew that it could be a two-way street because students could also have a front row seat to how local policy making for their school board happens and be really well prepared and informed citizens to engage in the process and be more effective at bringing the change they want to see.
100%. And I think that's so important. And at Virtutem Populo, we try to do that all the time, is how do we get students, closer to government, specifically at the local level. I always like to say that that's where really the magic happens because all of these policies at the national level that, President Biden, President Trump, President Obama, we may not even feel the impact of them for months, sometimes years.
Yeah.
While, something your local mayor does, something your school board does, it's like an immediate thing, whether, a park stays open or what textbooks you use in your classroom.
Is your trash picked up, right?
Exactly.
Like what classes are available to you, your schedule. I mean, it really affects students' lives every day.
And that's, civics classes and government classes, it's such a focus on the national level. So I think there's a lack of focus on, reminding students the importance of being part of your, local community. And that's why I love your program. And I think it's such a great way of engaging students. But talk to me a little bit about your campaigning process. Maybe some of our students who maybe are listening, maybe when they didn't want to go into politics. I mean, you were pretty young when you first ran.
Oh, yes.
Probably.
I'm still kind of young.
Yes, you still are. No, you still are. And
but you opened, right? And I think it's part of your mission, the next generation.
Right.
That was literally my campaign slogan in saying, you know what? We have a variety of viewpoints and voices that need to be heard, right? It shouldn't just be all one way of thinking. And for me, I literally ran on one being a next generation candidate, right? Thinking a little bit differently as a not so far removed from our student experience, but also to empower the next generation. And I mean, what you all are doing is amazing because you are finding more and more what we call, let's say, on-ramps for students to find the thing that calls out to them that they say, oh, this is interesting to me. This is my way into getting involved. For me, one of the ways that I became involved in the policy process was I found that I was an undocumented student my junior year, right? We started to think about college applications. Right. And back then in 2008, it was a little bit different. There's more opportunity now. We still have a long way to go. But I was forced into this realization of, oh my goodness, I can't get the jobs I'm being offered. I can't take them on, right? I can't volunteer officially with the school district. I can't even take some scholarships that I was, a great candidate for. And I learned that there was a policy introduced at the national level, the DREAM Act, that would help students like me, dreamers, be able to continue our education and then give back to the country we know and love, right? And so that was my first moment where I was like, oh, there's a solution to this very real pain and problem that I have in front of me. That happened to be federal, right? But there are a plethora of local, state, and then federal policies that affect us every day. And so, being that next generation candidate meant involving students every step of the way.
I think that's such an inspiring story. And I mean, campaigning was probably a little difficult. How did that play into like adults?
Yeah.
I mean, you were probably knocking on doors of,
Some people said, are you a student yourself? I can't pull that off anymore. That was 3 years ago. But campaigning, is such an interesting exercise because it is a matter of communicating with thousands of people, letting them know what you're promising,
is, right.
Convincing them that you're capable of actually delivering those promises, right? And it's hard. So yes, we knocked thousands of doors, called dozens of thousands of voters, phone banking, and really I was just out in the community listening relentlessly everywhere I could for about a year. And I really believe that any candidate of any age who chooses to take that approach of I'm going to listen and then I'm going to get really strategic and effective about how I bring about the change that I promise will gain the support of voters, because beyond a specific issue, voters want someone who is going to listen to them, who is there working to solve their problems. And I feel like a lot of our campaign, we were able to do that. And how were we able to do it? Well, over 100 students got involved in our campaign. And they're the reason I'm here. They really are. A lot of teachers as well who became very involved in the campaign and said, we believe in your message and we want to get behind you and we want to support you in delivering for us. And we feel like you'll listen to us, right? But it took a lot of work. So campaigning is hard, but it's doable. And I want to encourage every person, no matter your age, if you're willing to do that work, you have a great chance. Don't let anyone tell you that you're too young, that you don't have enough experience, that you're not what that candidate should look like, because I heard a whole lot of that. And I'm very proud to be the youngest ever elected school board member for Miami-Dade County.
Awesome, yeah.
Because I pushed past that and stayed focused and did it with a community, a movement of people, students, teachers, parents, community, and we were successful.
We sure are glad that you were successful, and we're happy to have you represent all of us. I mean, even though, you do represent your district, I feel like many students also outside of your district feel represented by the work you do. So thank you for that. Of course.
Every school board member's vote and decision affects every student. So I don't take it lightly that my decisions affect all of Miami-Dade County, although, of course, with a focus on District 9.
Right, of course. Now, speaking of, making decisions on school boards, and this is something that Virtutem Populo is working very hard on, and we mentioned it to Superintendent Doltris, who was here a couple episodes ago. It's the student advisor position on the Miami-Dade County Public School Board. I think Miami-Dade has had it for decades, but many counties in the state do not. And that's something that we want to change, but I just want to hear your input on that. I feel you sit right next to the student advisor, right?
I do.
So
it's a great seat.
It's a great, right?
I always have the best neighbor, the students, and I get to, hear their reactions, their perspectives. It's an honor to sit next to the student advisor. I was shocked when I started attending some school board member conferences and learned that other school boards don't have a student advisor position. We are here to serve students, right? And so I have made sure to share with other school board members who say like, hey, we don't have that. We'd like to figure out how to do it. I share, our policy on it. I think it's vital. It is, it's not a voting member, right? So there's, in some places, I think they've even gone as far as,
I think in San Diego, they're a full voting member, or in like Chicago as well.
And that's something to consider, right? But at a minimum, we already have someone on the dais who represents, and I think our student advisors historically have done a great job of going out and polling the community, right? Because they might feel a certain way, but just like any other elected official, any representative, you listen to all of your community, right? And it's a fine balance of representing your community and what they feel, and then also bringing your perspective and what you feel on an issue, and then making a decision on it, right? That's how we come up with how we're going to vote on things.
Right, exactly.
But I think it's an important thing for every school board to have. I think it's not the only thing that school boards and school districts should do to have student input.
Agreed.
I think for a district, the third largest in the nation, it can be a lot more robust, the student involvement, because there's so many aspects of the district. And, you know, I'm happy to help anyone who wants to expand that into other counties. And I'm grateful that you're leading some advocacy on that.
Well, thank you. And I think it's such an important voice to have. And we've seen our school board members, Andrea, our just immediate past school board member, she was a student advisor. She was very, vocal. Before that, Coriana. So there's many different, and I feel like you guys listen, and the community for sure. You can tell that there's something very powerful, I always say, when it's coming directly from a student. And sometimes parents and adults can raise the same concerns, but when a student says it, everybody's like, wow.
That's
so
a person,
there's always something
I'll share
special
a quick story with you. The student advisor that must have been in like 2018 was Chris Badillo, and he ended up graduating. COVID came, so he took a gap year, and he led a lot of my the campaign structure of volunteers. He led that, and then before he went off to Stanford to start after his gap year, he worked in my office. He led my office basically transition. So student advisors are ready to lead today. I hired him on this pod because I was like, you're already leading, and we've had plenty of great student advisors that represent their community well.
And speaking of having young people on your staff is pretty young compared to the staff of other school members. Why do you think that's important? Sure. I mean, it's pretty refreshing. I think most of your staff is like...
Yeah, I value, I really make sure to emphasize, I value the wide range of experiences and opinions, right? Including my own staff. And so it does happen to be that my staff probably is a little bit younger, but they are more than capable, right?
Yeah.
And I also have very veteran advisors and mentors that have been around because, I also need that perspective of people who have seen maybe 3 decades ago, 5 decades ago, what happened with a certain issue. And that's equally as valuable, and it helps me. However, of course, like my staff, is all digitally native, and so we have a very tech forward office. We use a lot of tech platforms that help us run a very efficient office, and it's certainly been helpful that the staff sort of has a lot of comfort with those platforms already.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of your digital presence is definitely there. I think a lot of students, even today, we were having a team meeting, and I said, today, we're interviewing board member Luisa Santos on a podcast, and half of the people in the room, they were like, oh my God, I follow her on Instagram. I love the updates. So I think it's definitely good in connecting with the students of what's going on in the school board, of having, because that's what today's age is, a lot of online, social media platforms. So I think it's good that you're moving in that
It's definitely
direction.
A goal of us to reach people how they want to be reached out to, right? And for some people that's emails, for some people that's phone calls, for some people that's, Instagram. So we try to really, communicate, and we do want to reach young people. We want you all to know what's going on because we want you to know you're an active participant in the process, and we want to empower you and give you the tools to be a part of it, right? It's not just a student advisor, although that's a representative. Every student, and I hope students take us up on this, can come speak at the school board meeting, happens one Wednesday a month. Public comment usually starts between 4:30 and 6:30. And you can come make your voice heard. You can email your school board member or all school board members anytime you want to say something about an issue. So don't be a passive participant, be an active participant in the policy that affects your schools.
And, speaking of giving public comments on school board meetings, I'm not sure which board member it is, but I looked over the agenda. I think there's an item up for discussion tomorrow of maybe allowing even like remote public comments or like digital. I'm not sure how you feel about that. I think it's a great idea, especially for students. A lot of the students maybe do want to participate, but our county is so large that maybe, students in your district, all the way in Homestead or in Aventura, it can be quite a drive. I mean, even from here, from the Hialeah, Miami Lakes area, Absolutely. It could be like an hour a day. So maybe
those were the comments I made. It's board member Lucia Baez-Geller's item, and I'm in full support of it. I introduced an item to live stream our school board meetings on social media. So you have no excuse. You can go on Twitter, X, you can go on X and find the live stream. And you can also go on Facebook and find the live stream. And you can sign up for notifications so you're notified when that happens. Anyway, this item is about public comment and exploring the feasibility, right? Saying, let's go do some research. Let's figure out if there's a way to do this. We're in the town of Miami Lakes. I'm pretty sure the town of Miami Lakes was the first to experiment with public comment.
And they do. They have fully remote public comments. People can join on Zoom and give public comments remotely from their home.
So I'm interested in exploring those options. Of course, there's certain guardrails. We don't want just one thing I don't want is like the voicemails that people just leave a voicemail and then we listen for hours to voicemails, It should be something that's engaging and two-way. And so I'm excited to see where that goes. We'll see if there's enough support to pass the item tomorrow.
Yeah, and hopefully it does pass. I would be in full support. Maybe
you can come speak.
yeah, I'll be there.
Tomorrow.
I'll be there.
There you go. Sign up.
I'll be there in the morning for sure. But something else, and you touched on it earlier, and mental health. It's obviously a big and important topic now. And at the district student government meetings that we have, that's always been a number one concern. And when we met with Superintendent Dultres, that all the students met, that was also number one concern. The way the district executes their mental health policies. I know currently it's been through a platform called Edgenuity. Many students felt that maybe that's not the best engaging way to do so, the videos, and I know that's been a topic of discussion.
Yeah.
What do you think the district should do, moving forward in regards to, addressing mental health in schools?
Right. So there's different tiers of support, right? So there's kind of like the universal tier, the training. So the state does require a 5-hour mental health requirement to cover certain topics. Actually, when I came on board, it was one of the first things we worked on to explore other options. Unfortunately, at the time, the board voted down a alternative to the videos that were being shown at the time. But I continue to hear from students, how they wish it was more engaging. They wish there was more maybe opportunity with professionals who are trained to have a conversation, a follow-up, right? If you want to dive deeper into the topic. And so I continue to believe that we have to find a new way to meet the mental health requirement. I understand in the beginning there was a short timeline to comply with the state. So, they did what they had to do. We have to make it a better delivery for our students. Now, there's also other levels of service, right? So when it comes to this month, actually, I have an item that specifically focuses on mental health supports for parents, students around the topic of post-secondary, right? A lot of people get stressed in high school about what's next. For some, it's college and university. For some, it's career. For some, it's the armed forces. But that process comes with its own sort of mental health challenges for a lot of our students, and our CAP advisors have also mentioned that. And so we want the district to be better prepared for that specific topic, right? And then, of course, we continue to hire more mental health coordinators, mental counselors, trust counselors, to make sure that students have a trusted adult that is trained to handle their needs and concerns. I also, want to reiterate to everyone watching this, if you are in need of help, if you notice that one of your friends needs some help or could use just a conversation, right? Maybe you see a change in their behavior. Make sure you talk to a trusted adult. Of course, your parents are available, your family, you've got counselors at school. They're well trained. We have to take care of each other, and we have to continue to remove the stigma around mental health. I know students want a lot more support, and I'm committed. One of the things we've done is reducing the student to counselor ratio. When I started, it was over 500 students per counselor. The recommended by the professionals is the maximum 250 to 1. And we're closer to 300.
A lot of progress.
Over 300 to 1, right?
That's
so there is
awesome.
progress, and yet our students are saying we need a little more support, right?
More.
So we've got a lot. We've come a long way. We've got a long way to go.
100%. And so let me ask you a question here. I mean, you graduated high school
2009.
2009. What high school?
Coral Reef Senior High
Coral
School.
Reef. Awesome. That's a huge.
It is a big school, yes.
Any advice for, from Luisa today to Luisa 12th grade year, junior year?
Yeah. I talk to a lot of students all the time, and one of the most salient sort of lessons that I share with them is, get comfortable with being uncomfortable in a safe way, right? Like, get comfortable with pushing yourself. Follow your curiosities. If you're curious about your garbage pickup times, go push yourself to go figure out and speak in your local government chambers, right? I know it's uncomfortable. It is. It's uncomfortable for me, and I'm an elected official with all these years now, right? But get comfortable with knowing that growth happens in that space where you're a little nervous, where you are not sure how it's going to go, and always look at failure as lessons learned, right? It's better to try, fail, and learn than to just play it safe and not learn. Hopefully succeed too. So just whether it's in college, whether it's at your jobs, dare yourself to push yourself into a little bit of an uncomfortable zone so that you flex those muscles and you get comfortable with growth, and then you're unstoppable.
Yeah, I love that. And another thing is that, any students watching, if you have any ideas, if you want to get maybe a little bit into that uncomfortable zone, like board member Santos mentioned, I would say also tap into those resources in your community. There's so many people out there who are trying to support students, trying to make a difference.
Absolutely.
It's that even your office with the fellowship and other school board members have initiatives as well, and all these organizations. At Virtutem Populo, we're launching now in October our youth empowerment program, where we're going to be giving mini grants to any students who have a passion project idea. They can apply for funding, and then we can give them a small amount of money to get started, and we'll actually coach them on how to spend it, who they can reach out to, trying to create that momentum in the community of students going out and being the change they want to see. So we're here, and please reach out.
And you can go to luisasantos.com if you're interested in working with us and learning more. You can see all the options to get involved there. But like you said, Marit, it's definitely every board member has their own engagement with students. So reach out, get involved, participate in the summer youth internship and the academic year internship, and all your local municipalities. You hit the nail on the head. People want to help students. Don't be shy about reaching out.
And just to confirm, your fellowship, it's not only for students in your district, correct?
That's correct.
It's also students across MDCPS.
Absolutely, yeah. And our academic year internship is open now. So that also is for any MDCPS student who qualifies for the academic year internship program. And we always are posting updates about when fellowship applications will open and stuff like that.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Just as we're wrapping up, any final message, any questions for me?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I am curious what inspired you as a student and gave you the confidence to say, I'm going to go start taking action beyond noticing the problems, right? What was that moment for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I moved here in 2015 from the Netherlands. I was born into Cuban parents.
Nice.
So when I moved here, I was 8, didn't really understand what government was like here or just, how things worked. But then I started a law studies class at Miami Lakes Middle School. So, and that's what really changed things for me. And that just goes to show you how much of an impact these public school programs can have on students. And I always say that civics is so much more than just law. If you're passionate about science, you trying to make a difference in any field you're interested in is, a way of being civically engaged. So in that law studies program, I was actually able to work with the elected officials here in the town to write and pass 2 ordinances. So we wrote one ordinance to make our school safer. We had an apartment construction going on next to one of our elementary schools that, you know, had some safety risks. The balcony was over the playgrounds, traffic issues like that. We spoke up, and that's no longer allowed in the town. So now balconies cannot be facing playgrounds. Bedroom windows can open towards playgrounds in schools. Apartments and gasoline stations have to be a certain amount of feet from schools to prevent accidents that have happened across the nation. So that's the first ordinance.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And then the second one was about flooding. Back when we had Tropical Storm Eta,
Oh, goodness.
my
yes.
middle school auditorium flooded.
Okay.
Like bad. Our
All the
floor
way.
went up.
Yeah.
It was, and they just fixed it now a few months ago. So it was like that for 2 years. But we wrote an ordinance promoting permeable pavers in driveways.
Absolutely.
Because all of this concrete, it doesn't let the water flow. So that for me was like, wow, I just did that. Like, we just wrote a law that's in the books. We came to town council, and they treated us like adults. They made us come back 3 times. They're like, we don't like that. We're not going to approve it. If it's this, you know, all
That's
the
how it is for the adults.
We went back. We fixed it. We were like, the attorney checked it. Okay, good. Go back and present again. We went back and presented again. They grilled us with questions, the council members, oh, how is this going to affect this? We were ready with our research.
That's
and
amazing.
in that moment when I saw that, wow, you know, even though I was back then in like 7th, 8th grade,
Yeah.
and the fact that they were taking me seriously and that we actually had the opportunity to make a difference, I was like, wow, there really is no limit as to what you can do if you have a passion for it. And especially when there's the adults that support as well, the possibilities are
endless.
That's
right.
So,
yeah.
you know, that was my like aha moment.
That's exciting.
But-
Thanks for sharing that. And
Thanks
hopefully,
for the question.
yeah, we provide that to more and more students, right? Students are involved in writing policy through our fellowship. So if you want
Good,
that
good.
experience, that aha moment, you can also have it in our office. And I did want to close by inviting everyone to stay in touch. LuisaSantos.com, Luisa Santos D9 on Instagram. And you can sign up for our newsletter and just get involved. We're here to help.
Well, thank you so much, Luisa, for coming on.
Yeah.
We appreciate all of you guys watching. Please follow us for more. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever there's podcasts, we are on there. And you can watch all of our videos on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at Virtutem_Populo. Thank you so much again for coming on.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Thank you.